And this week, I decided I'm going to go a little bit into a different direction, and I'm going to be talking to you guys about the Disney parks. Because there is actually something a little bit crazy that happened in there. And if you were lucky to be at Disneyland this week, then you might have found something a little bit unnatural, where you might have found an animatronic whose head was just completely off its body. And I'm actually not talking about the Haunted Mansion this time. And what actually happened this week was that if you were at Disney's California Adventure and you happened to ride Ariel's Undersea Adventure, then you might have actually found that Ursula was a little bit different when you see her, where she would literally have her head completely off. Like, there are some pictures that have been found on Twitter and all around on social media, but yeah, apparently the animatronic of Ursula, like, her head was completely off her body, and it was just dangling down there and being held on only by a few wires. And the most insane thing about it, like, really, what's actually pretty crazy about this animatronic is that even though the head was off, it wasn't like really malfunctioning or anything like that. It was still going. It was still on. It's kind of like Ursula was just saying, well, my head is completely off my body, but I might as well continue. The show must go on. Come on, you poor unfortunate soul. Go ahead, make your choice. And yeah, like, you see the animatronic was legitimately still moving, like the arms were still going fine, and if you look closely in the head, that was actually still moving as well. Like, the head still has some life into it, and Ursula was still singing Poor Unfortunate Soul. And it really was a weird imagery to see. This decapitated Ursula, and it's still trying to sing Poor Unfortunate Soul. It really was a crazy sight to see. And once again, on social media, you'll find numerous of pictures of this decapitated Ursula. And there actually is a video that has surfaced on social media where you do see it in action. In fact, there is actually one Twitter user by the name of Dizzy Missy, where she recorded Ursula just in action, like this animatronic that's just still going, and it's just really unnatural. It just feels really weird to see the head of Ursula still moving, still alive, and everything is still going on, while the head is clearly completely off.
In the past I've been a nasty. They weren't kidding when they called me well a witch. But you'll find that nowadays I've mended all my ways.
I mean, it is a dark ride and there's a little bit of lighting, but still it is clear as day as that Ursula's head is not attached to the body. And you know the most insane thing? The most insane thing about this situation is that, very coincidentally enough, there is another Disney animatronic whose head is completely off. And no, it's not the head of the Donald Trump animatronic at the Hall of Presidents, although it would be a really funny sight to see, and it would actually make the Hall of Presidents actually quite enjoyable to watch. No, it's actually not in Disneyland nor in the Americas or anything like that. It's actually in Disneyland Paris, in Pirates of the Caribbean, where apparently inside the attraction, you might remember the auction scene, and one of the pirates is the auctioneer. Like, you know the guy that has, the big hat? Like, you could tell he is the captain of the crew, and he has a green vest, and that's the guy who's pretty much selling off the wenches, and, he's pretty much counting the money. It's like, and now, me hearties, do I hear 6? Do I hear 6? Yeah, so you might be familiar with that guy. Well, somehow, his head is completely off as well, and just like Ursula, it's pretty much dangling down there, and it's only being hanged on by a few wires. And honestly, that one is a lot more impressive than the Ursula one, because in here, it's like you see his head dangling, but how the fridge is his head off when it's like surrounded by clothes? Like, how did you get off the layer of clothes in order to have your head freaking come off? And the reactions to it is honestly kind of priceless. And one really funny reaction that I found is actually from a Twitter user called WDW Animatronics. And I would like to expand upon the joke that he made, where he actually stated, authorities have identified 2 potential persons of interest in the recent violent beheadings of Disney animatronics. If you could spot either one, please contact the Orange County Sheriff immediately. And if you are looking for the suspects, then you have to be on the lookout of either the Queen of Hearts from Alice in Wonderland, the Headhunter with the top hat and umbrella from the Jungle Cruise, the Headless Horseman from the Legend of Sleepy Hollow, or the Black Widow Bride from the Haunted Mansion. If you see any of those, then report them immediately, because one of them is going on a decapitation frenzy. My money is on the bride. Okay, but going back into this news right over here, going back into the freaking weird decapitations of Ursula and the auctioneer, honestly, I look at this and I feel like this is kind of amazing to watch. It really is fascinating. In fact, I would actually say that it's actually equally as fascinating to look at as much as looking at a very well done animatronic. Like, if you have seen an audio animatronic that is beautiful to look at, something that is very well crafted, something that just looks absolutely phenomenal, that it really does feel more like magic than it does technology. You know, it's kind of like looking at that. All you can do is just look at it, and you have to ask yourself, how the fridge did they do that? Because it is phenomenal. And that's the case right over here. Like, you look at the decapitated heads, and you can only ask, how the fridge did that happen? How is it possible? I mean, you'd think that the Disney Imagineers and the people who would make these audio animatronics, they would actually have the technology advanced enough to know to attach a head into a body. Like, how the fridge is it possible that they can have, like, one freaking screw loose and then it's suddenly godforsaken off? It's just such a weird moment. And honestly, I just find it hilarious, the fact that they are still capable of functioning, even though they would have their head off, that they could still go ahead and like do their little act, rather it be Ursula singing Poor Unfortunate Soul, or the auctioneer doing his auction bid and all that kind of stuff. And like, not only the body would be moving, but you could also see the head moving, and it's just like, it is just unnaturally creepy, you know, but hilarious at the same time. And honestly, I would love to see the moment that it did happen. Like, honestly, like, what would have caused it? What would actually be the cause of having the head suddenly just randomly detach from the body? Now, I do understand that with Ursula, it is a bit of an old animatronic, and yeah, it's been there for quite a few years now, so maybe it would need a tune-up, but it's actually kind of surprising with the auctioneer, because the thing with that guy is that the whole auction scene in the Parisian version of Pirates of the Caribbean, that got massively updated. That was actually the first one that would actually have the big change where it's no longer auctioning wenches, but instead just auctioning random crap, and that the redhead is going to officially become a legitimate pirate now. Like, that is actually a brand new animatronic. How the fridge did you screw that up to the point where his head had to be completely popped up, like completely popped off, even from all the clothing? Like, you'd think, like, even if there is a bit of a malfunction, that the head would still remain intact because, like, the buttons make it tight or something like that. I thought that would be the case, but no. For some reason, with the auctioneer, like, his head is completely off of there. And honestly, in a way, just looking at it is both creepy and, like, you could see, like, honestly, like, looking at the pirate head, like, looking at the auctioneer, I feel like there is actually one thing that is actually really impressive. Like, you could see his head is completely upside down. Yet somehow, his hat is still intact. Honestly, his head is completely 180, and somehow the hat is defying the laws of gravity and it's still staying there. Like, it's still on his head, even if his head is completely off and it's dangling upside down. Like, that, honestly, is quite an achievement right over there. Now, I am sure that at this point, as I am recording this, that the Disney Imagineers did their job to fix things up. That they want to make sure that the Ursula head and the auctioneer head remain intact in the body, and they'll be sure that this little incident is not gonna happen again, hopefully. But honestly, it was a strange moment, and the only thing that really is too bad is that nobody really did caught the moment that it did happen. That you see them do their act and then suddenly the head just completely pops off like that would be an amazing catch there. Like, that would actually be a magical moment per se. But yeah, overall, this really was a strange moment and a strange sight to see. And sometimes it is fun to actually check out some animatronic fails. Like, you would see, like, an animatronic that's not working. Like, yeah, it sucks, but it is a rare, funny moment. And sometimes they can actually make some great moments. In fact, ironically enough, there's a lot of great moments with Mr. Lincoln where the animatronic would just suddenly fail. And there actually is a famous one that I do remember where, I remember, like, this would actually even be shown a few times at, in America's Funniest Home Videos and stuff like that, where, like, Abraham Lincoln, he would be doing his speech, and then suddenly, like, he would just look like he's tired. It's like, and to all, like, he's just going downhill, like, and honestly, there actually is another one that I do remember. There was at one point, it's actually in Pirates of the Caribbean, in the famous scene where the pirates are in prison and they're trying to lure the dog with keys. And you actually see one of the pirates, like, he is legit shaking up. Like, literally, he's trying, it's either the pirate with the bone or the one with the rope. Like, he's trying to lure the dog, and you just see him, like, like, honestly, it's weird, but honestly, they make fantastic videos. So, yeah, this is honestly a strange discovery, but man, sometimes it could be a hilarious discovery.